Good morning and welcome to Partner First, where we give you subject matter experts, vendors of note, and thought leaders in the MSP industry. Today is absolutely no different. Unless you've been hiding under a rock, I'm sure you've heard the term AI. It's probably part of your daily conversation at this point. Let's be honest. I know it's part of mine. I think I've talked about AI 300 or 400 times this morning. And who better to make use of AI than the MSPs, right? Clients are asking about it. They're seeing it in the news. We're looking for ways to use it. I see you're already in the chat. Mark, thanks for the excitement. I'm excited with you, man. What we're bringing is we're doing a partner first with some forerunners in AI for MSP, and I think it's absolutely amazing. They put out a video, I want to say a few weeks ago, maybe a little over a month ago. Absolutely blew me away. Use the automation for the mundane and use the people for the meaningful touches, and that's what I love to do. And this is no different. But first, before we get started, we have some housekeeping, of course. This is recorded. I know it's live streamed on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, not TikTok yet, but maybe we'll get there too. But the recording will be available immediately after. We do have some guests that are going to be coming and showing off products, stuff like that, but it's not a sales pitch. This is education. If you have questions, ask them in the chat. We will answer them in real time. Don't wait for the end, but we'll make some time in the end as well. So absolutely, let's have a conversation. I don't like death by PowerPoint. With much further ado, we're going to be inviting Mr. Bobby Jacobs of Thread and Mr. John Snyder. How you doing, gentlemen?
Hey guys,
we got one. There we go. We got two.
How's it going, Ray? Super excited to be here today. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, hey Ray, thanks for having us.
No, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it, especially jumping all those technical challenges. I showed up late for my own webinar. You guys were having sharing problems, but we get through it. We'll get it done for the MSPs. Mr. Bobby Jacobs, head of growth over at Thread. Tell us a little about yourself, a little about your background.
Yeah, love being here. Love what you guys are doing. Just the better together through the whole community, right? Like it's
absolutely.
I love the MSP channel. I studied entrepreneurship as an undergrad, which really means you graduate with like no real skills. And so I came out and got into like selling IT hardware because I had a mentor who kind of did that stuff, and that introduced me to the MSP space. Fast forward, I was working at a startup accelerator and met the LionGuard team, which like love those guys. Plug for LionGuard if you're not using LionGuard. But yeah, I got to join Joe and Vin pretty early on their journey, and have kind of been working directly with MSPs ever since. So I'm not the most technical person in the room. I think I've learned a decent bit about the MSP world and get to work with some awesome MSPs here in Houston, like Ergos, a great partner of Thread and LionGuard. And so all that to say, like, I love this community. I truly believe that MSPs power the world and like so important for security of small business. And like, I can go on and on till I'm almost in tears. Like, I just love that I get to support that type of business. And so, yeah, what we're doing some stuff with Thread that I think really helps accelerate how MSPs are able to help businesses, and all that to say, excited to be here.
It's a little bit like, anytime you could support the doctors and nurses that are supporting anybody else, that's kind of what you're doing with MSPs, right? Like you're helping them do the jobs that are making an impact. I think it was, I don't remember if it was Sobel or Palachuk made a comment on one of their podcasts, but it was something like IT people represent 5% of the global population, but they have an impact on like 95% of the world's commerce, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Not surprising to anybody in our field, but it's still ridiculous, right?
It's more and more every day. I was listening to a podcast called Invest with the Best, not MSP technology focused at all. And they were talking about how there's more businesses formed ever than before in 2022. And there's more technology enabled businesses than ever before, right? So it's like 95% becomes 97%, and the whole time that percentage is growing, not the end number is growing too, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. And so you're not alone. We have poor John is sitting there waiting for us. Sorry, John. This is a fun topic, man. So I want to make sure we're covering it. whatchamacallit. So we have Mr. John Snyder. How you doing, John?
Doing great. Yeah, thank you, Ray. I'm on day 3 here with Thread, so I'm brand new, but it is an exciting topic, which is why I'm here.
How does that go? Welcome to the team. Get on the webinar. We're talking to some people.
That's awesome. John's also been around. We got to work at Lion Guard together. John's got to help a lot of people when he was at PAX 8. So he's new to us, but he's not new to probably a lot of people on the call.
Yeah, I think John and I have crossed paths more than a few times before. So definitely people in the community. It's all about that, right? Like you find good people, and Lion Guard obviously is a great company. If we haven't done a partner first with them, I think we have one scheduled, but they've been around forever. But yeah, awesome people. So besides being day 3 over at Thread, John, and getting thrust into webinars, what are you doing there over at Thread?
So I'm helping Bobby out here. I'm going to be his right-hand man moving forward. He's been so busy helping partners because it is such an exciting time to be here at Thread, helping people with efficiency. So he needed another set of hands, and we've worked well together before. So we're doing it again. So that's why he's trusting a new hire to hop on a webinar with him.
I mean, new hire, but not newbie to the space. So, it's whatever hat you're wearing, whatever logo you're wearing on your shirt, it's still, you're part of the community. You're having conversations. It's stuff you've been doing for a while. So not too bad. So, but let's get into the meat of it. It's AI. I love AI. I love AI. I love AI. It's ridiculous. MSP Dispatch, I've actually trained ChatGPT to write my scripts for the show. That's been an amazing process over the last 6 weeks or so. But you guys are doing cool things, and it's not 100%. It's not only AI. Let's start with Thread first. What is Thread? For those that don't know.
Yeah. So it's, you guys do partner first and stuff with everybody, but I think what's so cool about us being on this call together is we're a communication tool first and foremost. And, so is OITVOIP. And so, what got me really excited about joining Thread when I was looking for my next thing was that we're helping improve how those end users interact with the MSP. Like, VoIP is freaking awesome. There hasn't been a lot of innovation since that.
No,
right?
It's hard, right? The differentiator. Yeah, you can talk, pick up the phone. So like the things that get me excited in VoIP are not like showing a BLF key or getting voicemail to email. Woo!
Yeah,
it's
there's
this
things
stuff
that
right?
really matter that make life easier. But as far as CSAT and improving all of those types of things and how people want to work, that's why I was really excited to join Thread, and because that's what we do. We help MSPs meet customers where they are, primarily inside Teams and Slack. Like I like to make this analogy that if I'm thirsty, I'm going to drink whatever's on my desk. If it's cold coffee, old lemonade, I'm not going to get up to go to the fridge to get something fresh. That's why those cups are so great, right? It makes stuff last longer. Even if I don't want to send an email or go to a portal or whatever, those things are great. But for that average end user who has something broken, they typically would prefer to chat. That's what we're seeing today. And the equivalent of a desk is Teams for a normal end user. Teams or Slack or wherever they're spending all their time. And so, that's what we do. We put apps right inside Teams or Slack. End users can chat with the MSP. It's integrated. It all goes through the PSA. That's the full stop. It opens tickets. So it works through the normal system. It's not necessarily live. So we've solved for a lot of these things that I think MSPs have just said chat doesn't work because it hasn't worked, because you have to have
there's challenges, right? That's the whole problem. Don't get me wrong. I'm 100% with you. Be where they are. That's our social strategy. That's our marketing strategy. That's our community strategy. That's the background for MSP Media Network, right? It's 1,000 voices, one community. Doesn't matter if you're on Reddit or Slack or Discord or, forums or whatever. And we see it on Reddit all the time. The comment comes up over and over again. How many of you are in your client's Slack or your client's Teams or whatever they're using? And traditionally, I've been very much against it because while it is the most effective method of communication, it was also the poorest method of communication when it comes to getting the data you need to do the job, right?
Yeah,
that's the whole point for the RMM agents.
Your $1 million a year customer messages you in Teams and you don't see it because 20 other people did, right? And then you're not hitting your SLAs. Technically, your SLA was never engaged, but they don't care, right? And it's like, it just puts you down a bad path.
It does, and it's hard because you don't want to say no to them, but you don't want to give them detrimental service. And sometimes, you know, you can't just do what the client asks, right? Like you got to do the right thing, right? You got to act as the doctor for stuff.
100%.
But you know, and I want to bring up real quick, I had to double check it in the chat because I didn't want to make the mistake. But Thread was Chat Genie previously. I was a user of Chat Genie.
Awesome.
Yeah, I used. I mean, this is 2019. So when we were using Manage, we left Slack to go to Teams. I still miss Slack, but whatever. But we left Slack to go to Teams, and the tool we were using to interface with our PSA didn't have a Teams integration. And Chat Genie at the time was the only thing that you could use. But it was very much that. It was from within Teams. I could respond to tickets, I could update statuses, I could do whatever, and it was in my pane of glass. I didn't have to log into anything, right? And so I loved it, and I absolutely loved it.
And that's where Chat Genie started, was the MSP side of the house, like this concept. And Matt, who's on here, is one of the co-founders of Thread, of Chat Genie. Matt and Mark were out of very large MSP, and they had all this conversation in Slack that was never getting onto the ticket. And so that was the first product, was like, hey, we're just going to give you a way to talk in Slack, and it lands on the ticket. Now we have the customer facing piece, which COVID, you know, really prompted that piece happening. And so, you know, we talk about death of the ticket a lot. My picture all over the internet is me as a pirate. We think tickets are just like the worst. They're not a form of communication, but they're used to communicate. And so everything needs to be on a ticket, but they're gross. Like, you shouldn't have to touch a ticket.
It's funny because, like, it is the most effective tool for the data management. It is the poorest experience for the user. For all, I mean, not even just the user, for the user and the techs, right? For anybody doing it. There's a question here that actually brings up a good point. It's from ProSource. It says, we're actively looking for a chat solution that does not scrape user data or over intrusive while running on a web page. How does Thread handle that? Ooh, that's a hard one right out of the gate, man. Data sovereignty.
The meat of it. I love it. First off, happy to dig really deep into this after the call and show you all the specifics and bring on smarter people than me. Big picture.
That sounds like a whole other conversation.
Big picture, we primarily don't run on web pages. You can put us on your website. It's not over intrusive. It's a pop-up if you want it to be, and people authenticate and then they can open tickets from your site. Primarily when we're inside of Teams or Slack, there's an app and there's a bot, which will show you. They can talk either way, but it's not over intrusive. I would say it's appropriately intrusive. Like, when you're sending a message, they'll get a push notification and they'll see a chat pop up. But you know, it's not going to be more than that. Hey Matt. He said, thanks for running this, Ray. Ray GPT. I saw that in the chat too. Love it.
Absolutely.
Which brings up, I never really answered your question about the AI side. We can transition back over there.
No, it's cool, but Thread lives in the client's Slack or Teams, right? Like, this is not, and that's the cool thing. They don't even have to go to your website to remember to log in. They don't have to remember to go click on the agent. They don't have to, and we are going to show some demo stuff. So for those of you that want to see the demo stuff, we'll absolutely get to it. But that's the big deal. Be where they are. If they don't have to remember, like with us, they pick up, they dial 611 or press the help button on the phone, they get us. But even that is something to remember. If they're already communicating with Becky or Bob or whoever, and they say, oh, I need something, the bot's right there. I mean, how cool is that?
Absolutely.
So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to derail you, but I just think it's so cool.
No, it's perfect. And you can transition back and forth too. Like, you need phone, right? Like, you need VoIP. You need the best VoIP solution you can get, which is OITVOIP. There's some other great ones out there. But if you start on the phone, that ticket that you open is going to populate in their Teams environment in Thread. So you can transition that conversation where that user is going. And because the PSA is the home base, it's all tied together.
Real quick, Matt, you can book time with Bobby to go over those exact details that it's in the chat. So, you know, feel free to do that. It's not, we don't want to like hand off the question. It's just, it's a very deep dive. Data sovereignty and all that is very deep dive conversation. So we don't want to.
Matt, specifically, our Matt just messaged me, and he gave me a little guidance, which I just didn't think of. But yeah, we're not scraping for like usage and such. We just look at their email and Teams or Slack. That's how we authenticate. So it's not scraping.
Yeah, and I have Matt in the chat telling me whatchamacallit, thread Matt. We inherit the auth in the team Slack and match to contact in the PSA. No scraping. If on the web, they're prompted for email. So that, I mean, that seems reasonable,
Yeah, pretty
right?
straightforward.
Whatchamacallit. So all right, so keep going. Sorry to
Yeah.
derail you.
So we'll get to stuff. You know, the AI side of it. I frankly didn't realize like how much AI Thread was already doing when I joined. I've been here about 7 months or so, and you know, 7 months, like people didn't really know what ChatGPT was, right? Like our lives have been completely turned upside down since then. So we launched our first AI real feature in November, and it was automating time entries. It's freaking cool. We'll get into it, but we were at IT Nation when we first started really showing that feature, and people would come up to the booth and just kind of look at it and then like walk away. Like there wasn't really a comprehension of like what was happening.
Well, the problem with like AI is actually a perfect example of this. The problem with it is like it's like a blank canvas and some like oil paints.
Yeah.
You know what could be done, but
Yep.
sometimes it's like a blank PSA, right? Like you know what could be done, but like what do I do with it? And so it's so ethereal that you're just like, oh, what
It has to be used
you know
in
what I mean?
context. Like it's so
Yeah.
important. Like you can write a blog, you can write an email response, you know, like there's the basic stuff, but beyond that, it really needs to be used in context. And that's like I think just what was so funny about being at IT Nation and using ChatGPT, no one really got it. And then all of a sudden in January, February, people were more like, oh, that makes sense. Like I thought that's how it would work. It was like it was just funny seeing like over 3 to 4 months, we've all seen like people's understanding of generative AI just like explode, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's, you know, and that's the hard part for like I would imagine for you guys and for vendors in general is like and MSPs like taking the possibilities and turning them into solutions to create a better impact for the affected parties. Like that's not an easy thing. It's literally jobs was like that's a pretty hard thing to do.
Yeah, and I mean, there's tools like Hoodoo has in beta. They're writing documentation with ChatGPT. I think that's perfect, right? That's a great example of using it in context, and like writing documentation sucks, so that's great. I think as much as you can be using it in a way where that aligns with how someone's already using that kind of tool, like that's where you're going to see wins.
Yeah. So I have a quick question here. I see asking whatchamacallit, how are you different from Inverosoft?
Yeah, so there's customer portals out there, right? Like some PSAs have their own. There's Cloud Radial and Verisoft, Desk Director. We work very closely with Cloud Radial. So we partner super well with them. Overall, I think the biggest thing with a customer portal is it's super robust. You can do all types of things, and your site contacts are going to love it. Like they're super excited to have all of this information. Going back to the water on the desk and like being thirsty, the end user doesn't really care about all these things you provide them, right? Like trainings and like forms and all this stuff. You need that. It's great. We're kind of different sides of the same coin. We go for that end user and get them engaged super easy, where those tools more give the site contact like everything they've ever hoped and dreamed of.
So, and I'll do a shameless plug. We're doing, I think we're doing a webinar with Goldie. We're doing a partner first on May 31st. Awesome. So we'll be sure to show the thread integration there while we do it. I see another question, and this may be like a Matt later question. How are you handling data privacy issues? This is Tim. He's in the US, but he's in the compliance space. So
yeah, so if we're talking about it from an AI perspective, we work directly. We're a Microsoft startup, not meaning we're owned by Microsoft, but we're in their programs. We work directly with OpenAI. Microsoft actually just released a case study around what we're doing with OpenAI. So all of that to say, because we work closely with them, we don't reprocess any data that we're putting through our AI features. So that's the biggest thing when we're talking about data privacy is we're not reprocessing any of it. If there's another direction that we want to go down that path, happy to dig into it. I think there's a link to my calendar in the chat here too.
Cool. Yeah. It's definitely in the calendar, definitely in the chat. So go book time with him. And David, I see your question. We'll get to it. I want to make sure we have enough time. We're already half an hour in. I want to make sure we have enough time for at least the stuff that, Bobby wants to show. So let's do that first. And then we'll get to your question shortly.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we talk about service collaboration a lot, right? We're integrated chat. That's great. But the bigger picture is service collaboration. And there's a couple of reasons that we have this bigger mission and vision. First off, if you go get a chat plugin, it's not going to work very well, right? Most people have probably tried that. And so like you really have to have this full platform experience to enable chat well. But bigger than that, when we think about communication and collaboration, going back to like tickets are the worst, to put the ticket back in its box where it exists, you really have to have three things. The first is integrated chat, right where those customers live, that integrates with the PSA. Integrated is a big term there. Now on the back end, PSAs aren't real-time solutions. So if you try to handle chat from a PSA, it's going to be like 10 or 15 minutes before you get a response, which doesn't go very well when you're trying to message somebody, right?
That's the genesis for every. Tim's very impressed by your answer. I think Azure OpenAI is the only one right now that has any kind of DLP or data sovereignty considerations. So that's kind of a big deal. We were talking about that in a different conversation in Discord. But no, you're right. Like part of the problem is they put in a ticket, then you don't talk to them for 15 minutes. They've walked away, and these become the endless list of waiting client responses because they're not at their desk or whatever happened. Getting them as close to when they submit is a big deal.
Yeah, and that brings up a couple of pieces. Like it doesn't have to be live chat. Like a lot of MSPs are afraid of like, I don't have someone instantly available. We do some things to set the stage, and we'll show you where people understand that it's not an instant response, but it's about being quick when you start engaging. So that's where it's like, instead of sending an email asking you if you can remote in and 4 hours later, someone replies, yes, you've already gone home for the day. Now you're where they are, you start engaging. And so all that to say, we have our backend tool that we call Inbox. It's kind of like if Discord and a PSA had a baby. You can do things like @mention people. You can /command to change status and priorities. We have all these shortcuts that we call beast mode. That's where the AI time entries come in. And so that's like a different leg of the stool that is service collaboration. So it's the integrated chat, it's that back-end piece. And then the third one is actually what you talked about, Ray, that ChatGenie originally was, where we're pushing adaptive cards into Teams or Slack for the MSP. So you can have that conversation and it logs, right?
Well, that's such a big deal because like traditionally the chat stuff that we've had to work with, it was meant for one-to-one communication, which sucks if you're a larger team, right? Like, I hate we don't do a single tech per ticket kind of thing. It's all the information's there. Anybody that's available handles it based on dispatch priorities. But that way clients don't have to wait for Mike to be available or for Brenda to be available. That's misery. But having that team-based approach that you can do it within a platform like Teams or whatever, but that everybody can address it. That's fantastic. That's a big deal. And I know you already went past this, but I'm going to harp on this again. 30% decrease in time to resolution. A lot of time we all have our SLAs. We all pitch our SLAs. We're all thinner, lighter, faster, whatever, than the next MSP. Yeah. But the truth of the matter is clients are also a big challenge to SLAs, client availability. Sure. So, some clients don't get that. You go to the client and say, hey, we couldn't handle this in 2 hours because you weren't available. Let me know how that QBR goes.
Yeah,
I want to be there.
Exactly. Exactly. No, that's a huge deal. And this 30% is like, there's a lot baked into that number, because another thing that you're able to do with chat tickets is multitask. So you can handle multiple tickets at the same time. So from that sense, like maybe you're not closing it faster, but overall you're doing a lot more, right? So maybe this technician's handling 20 tickets instead of 10 or 15 tickets, and you're seeing that decrease in time to resolution. Like it's a big deal. And then, at the same time to resolution is going down, customer satisfaction is going up. So it's pretty powerful.
That's awesome. And I want to take the time here real quick to bring up David Suspinder's question. Can you provide support from Teams to clients using both Teams as well as Slack? For example, clients who don't use Microsoft with Thread.
Yeah, absolutely. We have apps that sit right inside Slack and Teams on both sides of the house, for the MSP and for the end user. So that end user can have our app in their Slack environment. The MSP can be in Teams. It's all going through the PSA, chatting back and forth. Yeah, and it's without federating as well. That's the big deal.
Wow.
It's like it's not connecting
huge
teams
deal.
to teams. It's separate. So when they chat, it's not like, hey, I'm going to message Ray 1,000 times. So I'm going to chat, a ticket opens, which I promise we'll show in a second. But it's yeah, show me a demo. Do we just want to jump into it, Ray?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know they love demos, and I get it. It's just this is so interesting to me. But
Yeah,
Tim's
and there
absolutely
is a
right.
piece
Let's
of
do
like
the demo. Yeah.
you kind of need to understand conceptually like service collaboration, because that's kind of where it goes. So
Yeah, and but like your point about ITNC, right? Like, or IT Nation Connect, like sometimes showing it without the context first, the conversation first, you lose the meaning of it, right? You lose the understanding of what you're doing. I'll give a perfect example. My Matt, we have a lot of Matts going on here.
yeah.
My Matt Fox, my creative director, he's big into custom keyboards, and he was showing me all these keyboards and like all these custom things we're doing. And we're doing a boarding school at MSP GeekCon on the 21st on the pre-day.
Nice.
We're going to build custom boards, but he showed me all this stuff and I didn't know how to appreciate it. My feedback to him was, what am I looking at? Show me how to appreciate it. What are the difference in here besides the visual stuff? Why does this matter? So that's why we like to do these conversations before showing, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's a big deal.
Yeah. 100%. So, but now we can show it. So
Yeah.
I've got a screen share here. My Mac was being weird. So Matt is working here. So you can see some teamwork as we go. Matt's reading my brain. I'm reading his, where the mouse is going. But yeah, so you'll see here, and Matt, if you could make the left side a little bigger, that may be helpful initially. If you want to drag that window to be bigger here. But you'll see the left side is Teams for an end customer. So this is their Teams environment. It's a white labeled app. And that's a big deal, huge deal. The MSP has their logo, branding, colors, icons, all this stuff right inside the Teams app. It's an app in Teams, right? So it's pinned on the side. It's pretty cool to me, Ray. This is like if you have a fridge in your office. I still might drink the cold coffee on my desk, but I'm less likely to, right? Like that water's close to me. And what I mean by that is the end user is not in the app in Teams all the time, even though it's in Teams. What's really cool is our bot. And the bot is just like a normal user inside of Teams. So Matt, can you click over to where like you see like all the different, the chat side of it? Or even like the top left where you'd see all the different users? Yeah, there you go. So you can see Matt's a little lonely here, right? There's not a bunch of coworkers, but in a normal Teams environment, you have all these channels, you have all these coworkers, and this bot here on the left is just like another user, but that's you as the MSP. So now when you're responding with chats, you're talking to people, they're getting just like another chat like they would from anybody else.
That is so dope. I love that.
Yeah, it's big. To me, that's like, all right, the water's on the desk. Like there's literally nothing I can grab quicker than chatting with my MSP right here. So we'll go back. Sorry, Matt. I love showing that piece. But yeah, if you go back to the Teams app, you'll see here a couple of things to point out. This iframe on the left where it shows like email, call us, training videos, that's fully customizable. So you can put in links to onboarding forms, HR portals, cloud radio links to OITVOIP phone numbers, resources, whatever it is. You can update that stuff dynamically. Now, this window on the right here, that's what we call our messenger app. So that's what shows up on your website. If you need to roll it out on someone's device, you can do that with your RMM, and it'll pop up. It's in Cloud Radial. So this is kind of the home base. It's a better experience than that chat, but they do have to choose to go to it. So you have both, which is nice. That makes sense.
I'm sitting here and I'm like, normally like I'm more engaged, but I'm sitting here and I was talking to some other people. It's been a minute since I've looked at your guys' platform, and I'm just sitting here like, oh, I wish I was an MSP today. This is so cool. This is like, you know what I mean? I'm fangirling here a little bit because I think this is so awesome. But I love it. There's a question there about Halo PSA integration, Halo and Hoodoo. Everybody knows I'm a fan of Hoodoo. I've been a fan of Hoodoo for a very long time. Halo is amazing. Nothing against the other PSAs. I'm sure a managed fan through and through, but Halo is doing some awesome stuff. So when's Halo and Hoodoo coming out, man?
Yeah. So actually, Mark, who made that first comment, Mark with a C, is our head of product on here. So if you can find a way to get to him, go beat up Mark, building what you want. But yeah, so we do Autotask, ConnectWise, and BMS today. You do have to have a PSA integration to use Thread because we're not a ticketing solution. I love the comment, Ray wishing he was still in MSP. Also, Ray, get out of MSP while you can.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's 100% accurate.
All that to say, we are actively working on the Halo stuff. You can see there's a bunch of videos there, or sorry, votes, not videos. So it's really highly voted in our portal. Synchro is right behind that. I don't know if right behind means a month, 6 months, a year. We'll see. I don't want to speak too much for our product team. But Halo is the next PSA integration we're building. We have a lot of people asking / begging us to do that. So it's coming.
I don't know. Mark's sitting there saying, "Bring it." I think we can get him to do a hard commit. Halo will be done by the end of this week, and
I don't think anybody wants Halo to be done by the end of the week. I don't think that's going to go very well.
But you guys have a public feedback portal. That is something like that's one of my soapbox items. I sit there and it drives me nuts with vendors that don't have a public feedback portal to hold you accountable to feature requests and timelines and roadmaps. So kudos on that. Definitely something it's a big deal. There you go. Mark says it's shipping tomorrow. We're good.
All right, perfect. But no, Halo is definitely next. Now, frankly, I will say our documentation integrations are not quite as important as our other as the PSA integration. It's actually nowhere near as important as the PSA integration. It's cool. It's a nice to have. You by no means have to have our IT glue, which we do today, or Hoodoo, but it is cool. You can / command, pull in a config. It's really helpful. So we'll talk about it.
Oh, there's my co-host Tony Francisco, my co-host on MSP Dispatch, and all around the best smile in the industry. He's asking API. Tim Golden's been saying this is the year of API for at least the last 2 years. So, do you guys have an open API?
We don't have an open API today. That's also something that is on Mark's roadmap. But we have a good bit of integrations, even despite that. So there's more coming. We're working with Roost and a bunch of other people right now on integration stuff.
Roost is cool stuff. We did a partner first with them a while back, but Aaron, Tim, Adam, all really awesome people. Ashley Cooper, awesome people.
100%. All right, well, let's just show you how it works real quick. So Matt, if you go over to the messenger window, so you can see first off, there's a bunch of tickets populated already. So back to that point, any ticket that's open for this user, they'll see populate inside Teams or Slack, which is awesome. Say they have a new problem going on, they'll just click new chat and they'll send a message. Let's see what Matt says. So Matt will say something like, "Hi, Bobby. You sound really thirsty." So Matt wouldn't know that Bobby's going to get this ticket, right? He can say that. It may go to me, it may not, but he sends that message. It'll ask him which device he's using because it sees that there's a bunch of devices tied to this user. So it's trying to tie that config right out of the gate from the PSA. So he'll select a device. That'll tie it. And then the first thing that happens here is the ticket's open. So nothing's happening without a ticket, even though I'm a pirate and we talked about death of the ticket. Tickets are being used for what they were meant to be used for, which is documentation, time entries, tracking. So it's all on the back end, but we're not communicating with tickets, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Now, another thing that you guys as OITVOIP, I'm sure, find is that end users care a lot about knowing what's happening, right? Solving things faster is great, but we actually find that they care more about just understanding that they're being helped. And so that's why
I find that more common now. I want to say 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Geez, I'm old. But I remember working tickets and honestly, the clients didn't care. Just get it done, move on, right? They were not interested at all in what was done. Now it's what happened? Why did this happen? How can I prevent it in the future? They're much more educated and more interested in being educated.
Yeah. For sure. And I think the first piece of that is just did you hear me? Are you helping me? Are you working on this? And then, it goes from there. And so we find that first touch of letting them know we're helping The hard part of that is the better a tech, typically the worse they are at communicating and keeping someone up
Yeah.
to date. So all that to say, with the status tracker see on the left, we try to do the first piece of that automatically. So you click a button to assign that ticket, right? You can either do that in the PSA to assign the ticket to someone in your normal flows, or you'll see an inbox here on the right side, which, just to set the stage, inbox is our back-end tool, right? There's a couple things going on here. You'll see the left side's the navigation. So my inbox is any tickets that are open and assigned to me. Channels are like views and manage, or queues and auto task. You can create those with our workflow engine. So you can map your boards and queues exactly, or you can get more granular. But essentially, when a ticket's assigned, which, if Matt clicks accept here on this ticket as a technician, that will assign the ticket to him. It will tell the user that he was assigned. You can see they got a message in Teams right away. They'll get a push notification. They got a new chat. And then they'll see that status bar on the left move along there and tell them Matt was assigned to the ticket.
That's so cool.
So that's the big piece.
So working on this, if I'm understanding correctly, they actually don't even need to go to their PSA if they don't want to.
No.
Like, it's not a hard requirement.
Yeah, it's all going back to the PSA. Now, Inbox is purpose-built to manage chat-based tickets. All your tickets come in here. It's not going to be as good of an experience writing emails from Inbox. You're probably going to want to do that from the PSA, although you could. But as far as seeing what's going on, responding to customers, changing statuses, like you can do / commands to change the status and priority and all types of things. So it's pretty fun from that perspective. Now, another few things happened here. One AI feature that we haven't talked about that we just released. You can see here if you squint. I don't know the size of this for other people. My presenter view, it's pretty small. But you'll see in the middle, that ticket was auto-prioritized. That's the biggest thing that's happening from an AI perspective when this ticket comes in. We have on our admin side of the house, you'll basically tell us what you consider different priorities. It's really awesome. Like, I was playing around with it. I wrote if the house is on fire, it's priority 1. And then I wrote the roof is burning in a ticket. You can see here. And it set it as priority 1, and it gave an explanation of why that deserves to be priority 1.
So let me ask you something about the AI side of things. And I get this may be actually possibly a more for a later conversation, but
Sure.
One of the things, good friend of mine, Jason Slagle, one of the things he rallies about is a lot of times things get called AI and ML, and really it's just logic based. If this, then that.
Sure.
If this, then that. Right.
For sure.
So what makes the AI integration, obviously besides that you're using Azure Ops AI, but what makes it, where does this become AI? Where does it become magic versus just keyword matching?
Yeah, I mean, frankly, I think like ticket dispatch is going to be table stakes a few years from now. Like, I think it's like all of your vendors offer it. Who do you get it from type thing? Because with AI, it's not that complicated. Now, there's some ways that people are doing automated ticket stuff that's not AI, to your point, with scores, right? Like, you can set a score to all these things, and then it tells you which ticket you prioritize, and that's really cool, but that's not AI. What we're doing here is you tell us just in natural language, you can see on the left, what you consider different priorities. When the ticket comes in, it's processing through ChatGPT and our learning models. And then it tells you what category it fell into. It can even do things like, if you look at priority 2, it says if VPN access, if there's issues with it and they're not VIP. How do they know they're VIP? ChatGPT is going to the PSA and looking at their settings.
That's a big deal because one of my challenges with a lot of like the voice assistants, for example, when I'm doing something at home, and I was actually just talking about this yesterday, when I'm doing something at home or in my office, and I have 3 or 4 things to get done. If I say, hey, Shmamexa, whatever, I have to remember the keywords to use. I have to remember the context to use it in. And then I have to wait for her to finish one so I can do the next. And I got to wait for that to do the next. Versus when I go to ChatGPT, it understands context. It's aware of, it knows how to infer, it knows previous references. So you can have a normal conversation. I would never say, hey, Bobby, this, also Bobby, this, also, like, I would never go, you know what I mean? That's not normal conversation.
For sure.
Hey, ChatGPT, OpenAI, like, these things are really good at this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which makes for better conversations.
Yeah, and to the point, like if you have a big scoring system and you're routing tickets and such that way, like we work into those systems because we're not assigning tickets here. We're telling you the priority, right? We may get to the point where we're doing that type of stuff, but here the ticket comes in, the priority's set, and then you can have workflows that do specific things with priority 1 tickets versus priority 4 tickets and who that goes to and boards, and that can flow into scoring systems. But it's just really powerful out of the gate. Even if you did zero other automation for it, Matt, if you go back to the general inbox, like that technician just seeing, hey, this was set to priority 3, and here's why. Like that's going to help that technician. Now, another piece that typically happens is we have workflows, which Matt was showing, which are more of the logic based. They are not AI. Like it's exactly what Jason's talking about. Like, in the past, people probably would have called workflow logic AI, and it's not. But it is still really cool. And Matt's showing a workflow here that's basically if a VIP customer opens a ticket, it sends an internal message to the technician telling them they're VIP and the SOP around how to handle that. So you could do that with like, hey, we know this customer works from home on Wednesdays. Don't call their office on Wednesdays. And that's just a message that a technician gets when that team opens tickets on Wednesdays. But that's not AI, right? There's a difference on that stuff.
Oh, sorry. Of course, I'm muted at least once, right? That's okay. My words weren't all that helpful. I was just saying that's so cool. So yeah, more fangirly here.
So just so we don't get dinged for not like finishing a demo. So that ticket's open, that technician has it, right? They can respond back and forth. So they said, Bobby's really thirsty. They can say, Matt's using a snippet here. So we have saved responses. So he's responding with like a triage queue to ask some questions. Big picture, you go back and forth. You're just chatting. It's really natural. And then once you have that conversation, that's all automatically logged. You can do internal notes. So Matt and I could have a conversation back and forth inside of Inbox. You could do that inside of the MSPs, Teams, or Slack. And then at the end of the day, you've helped that user. You've solved the problems. So you can see Matt's doing an internal note here. And then you'll go write a time entry. And that's what you see in the top right with TimePad. Is not much is going to happen because we didn't actually have much conversation. But we'll give it a try. So Matt clicks Copilot. It's going to read everything that happened here, and it's just going to write the time entry for you.
And besides being cool, right? Besides being like really awesome, and besides the obvious time savings, the thing that excites me about this is it is so easy in the context of a conversation, especially one that goes over time, to miss out on certain points when you're documenting a ticket. It's easy, it's easy to miss something the client was stating in a conversation just in one-on-one. You missed a point, but also if we've been talking about a ticket for over a day, right? Like, it's very easy to forget, oh yeah, we did this thing and I needed to add this to the time entry so it could be useful for later. So having AI go back and look at the context of the entire conversation saying, these are the meaningful points. That there's, I don't want to say it adds validity to it, but it definitely adds substance to it without question.
Yeah. No, there's a lot to it. It's standardized. So now your time entries are all the same. I talked to like service desk managers or different people in different roles that their job's to review all time entries. When they're all different versions and different ways they're written or not happening, it makes that job a lot harder. But yeah, from a time perspective, it's pretty easy math. Like if you're an MSP on here, think about how many tickets your team handles a day, like each user. Say a technician handles 10 tickets on the low side. Say they spend 3 minutes per time entry. On the low side, that's 30 minutes, right? A lot of times in reality, it's actually saving over an hour per tech per day. We have a partner, WBM, shout out, really great partner of ours. They say that this saves them over 300 hours a month on the time entries.
That is ridiculous. That's crazy. I believe it 100%. And Tim's making a good point. If it's not documented, it doesn't exist. I'm definitely in that camp. I don't allow my managers to, I don't want to say criticize. I don't allow my managers to coax or coach or otherwise direct my staff to do anything that's not documented first. Employees follow documentation, staff or management enforces documentation. And if it needs to be fixed, we have teams for that. But like you said, the best techs are the most horrible ones at documenting. I can say the same thing with salespeople, right? Like
For
the
sure.
most rock star salespeople never update their CRMs. Drives me bonkers.
Yeah, and I think what it gets back to is like, there's this frame of thinking of like, okay, we need to get them to do all the things we need. Let's take a step back. Like, ideally, you don't make your techs do that. You don't make your salespeople do that. Like, how do you enable them to work the way that they operate best? And then all this other stuff's happening. And I think that is what like gets me so amped up about these specific use cases is if your best tech doesn't have to spend an hour writing time entries, you just got like almost a full-time employee back if that
Right.
happens for a few different techs, and they're your best guys.
And Mark makes an excellent point. AI is exceptional when it comes to procedural tasks like time entries, where thoroughness and speed are essential, especially when there's plenty of context switching going on. That swivel chairing thing, humans are not made to multitask. As much as I would love to say I'm fantastic at multitasking, I really think I am, but also I believe my mom when she said I was special. But the truth of the matter is, when you're going from one platform to the other, doing the swivel chairing, you're gonna lose something. You're gonna lose a little bit. And that doesn't take away from like just we are real-time people. We are more keen on real-time chat. So teams, I love being able to communicate, but it's also a hindrance in the sense that I'm working on one thing, I start getting pinged on another. You never want the quality of your tickets or your notes to suffer because of that.
Yep.
So OpenAI or AI or whatever version of AI, but AI is best at that because they don't get distracted, right? They have the entirety of the internet at their disposal.
100%. Yeah, and a concept that I'm sure you guys think a lot about is, and Matt talks about it a lot, is that one of the leading indicators of customer experience is employee experience, and that's where
Right.
I think like as vendors we have so much opportunity to help MSPs give their employees a great experience when their tools are fun. And like when Matt closes his ticket out, you'll see a bunch of confetti, and that it's a small thing, but it's pretty cool. Like if the tech enjoys it, that's going to bleed over to the customer.
Oh, for sure. We've all been to that, like, mechanic getting an oil change, returning something at a store, whatever. And that employee's having a bad day. And that interaction is absolutely colored by that bad day. It doesn't matter if they're not trying to be mean to you, but they come across gruff and it kind of shapes your perception a little bit of the customer service. And it's not their fault.
Yeah.
They have life experiences. It is what it is. Not everybody wakes up super excited to go to work that day, but if you can brighten their mood a little bit with these stupid little things, it is, I'll make it akin to our hold music, right? We have, this is recorded. We have Super Mario Brothers, Night Court, Sanford and Son, and some other stuff. And we used to, and I didn't do it on purpose. I did it because I'm a nerd and I like what I like. But one of the cool little side effects that happened was, back when I was taking calls, you put somebody on hold or somebody's on hold before they get transferred. And it doesn't matter if they were mad, and unfortunately, being me, I get the corporate escalations, right? I get the pissed off people. So they were mad, but when I pick up the phone to start talking to them, they forget they were mad about whatever.
Yeah,
they were just talking about, oh, I was listening to Night Court, and I remember watching this back in the 80s, and all this stuff, and it switches the context of the conversation. So if that tech's having a bad day, or even if they're whatever, and they see that little confetti or the little whatever, right? Like, that just makes it brightens their day a little bit, and it has a meaningful impact on the rest of their performance.
100%. 100%. Hey, David made a good point here, and it does bring up a point where there's a bit of a challenge here today of, the way David said it is, if we're not ready to cover all clients, I don't want my techs to have to split their time between interfaces for support. David, I'll make that problem even a little bigger for you, which probably, not how maybe I should take this, but let's say, like, even if you are ready to handle all your clients, Inbox is purpose-built for chat. It's not purpose-built for phone and email tickets. You can do those there. It is another window. I know single pane of glass is like, especially when I was at Lion Guard, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
No one's ever going to have single pane of glass. It's just not going to happen. As close as we can get to it is great, and it's better, but sometimes it's worth it to open another window. And I hate, saying that, but it's true. And I think that's frankly, just like, to expedite things, the best answer I can give you is like, totally hear you, tech splitting their time between interfaces. But when you're able to provide this type of support. And it's a big reason that we've made Inbox so fun, is that when techs go there, that's where they're doing the time entries automatically and all of these other things. It's worth it to do both. Now, there are more and more features we're building every single day that make it so you can do more things in Inbox and you don't have to context switch as much. Frankly, though, like the PSA is really important. You'll always have some things to do in the PSA. So happy to dive into deeper. But
yeah, I see the question also about CSAT. Is that on your radar? Is that something you guys are looking at?
Yeah, there's a ton of opportunity. You know, we're the communication tool as far as like being in their environment. And so there's a 100 things. CSAT's a great example. We're not building CSAT today. We definitely want to integrate with CrewWho and Smileback and all those types of tools for sure.
I love it. And I realize we're running short on time, so I apologize, everybody. That's completely my fault. Asking way too many questions.
No, I love
so
it. David, we can write time entries on every ticket, and they are pretty consistent. That may be confusing, so let's grab some time, David. Would love to talk more. I love the way you're thinking about things.
Yeah. Put it. We'll put Bobby's link is in the chat. Simon reposted if you don't mind, so it's not all the way up there. I wish we had time to cover more. Maybe we're gonna have to do a part 2 or do a technical deficit to whatchamacallit, go over some of this stuff because it's so damn cool.
Hey, well, Ray, thanks for having us. I know we're at time, but you rock. It's fun to be here.
No, absolutely. Any last words you want to say before Simon gets to his upcoming events?
Yeah, just if you're focused on customer experience, then let's talk.
Yeah. Absolutely. Reach out to these guys. I mean, even coming on here and having, it's what, 4 of you, like between Mark in the chat, Matt in the background, John Kim, like between all of you, like that shows a lot of dedication and passion for what it is. Go spend time with them. Go talk to these guys. Very cool stuff. One of the things we go over partner first, I don't always get to say these are tools I used myself, but I absolutely was a ChatGenie customer for a long time. Love the platform. Definitely cool people. So you definitely want to go talk to these guys, see what they're doing. Thank you so much, dude. I appreciate you. And I appreciate all the Thread staff that's all over the place today, helping us out. All hands on deck.
Too, from your team, Simon. Appreciate all the help getting this going.
Thanks. Simon, tell us what's coming up, dude.
Yeah, so we have several events coming up, and then we have one that just happened at 10 a.m. today. So in case you missed it, check out the latest episode of AI Roundup, the Great AI Arms Race. Can we survive the onslaught? We're also going to be doing the Tech Bar podcast episode 58 next Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. And then remember to catch up with the latest industry news on Tuesdays and Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern with MSP Dispatch presented by Tony Francisco and Ray Orsini.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's all she wrote for Partner First. I appreciate each and every one of you. I wish we had needs more night court implementation in my opinion. I agree. But I appreciate every one of you. Thanks again to the Thread team. Thanks to you guys in the chat. If you missed any part of this, it's recorded. You can see it right away after this. But till next time, take care of yourselves and each other.